gentlemen. I just wanted to make some statements and also provide some clarity to the video that I released yesterday called Not Today, Whitey. You know, yesterday's video was very comical, and it was very directed at a particular set of people. And actually another guy who owns multiple businesses and is involved in the sport in many ways. He wanted to thank me because he understood the meaning of the video from yesterday. He knew that I was calling out the silent racism that is going to destroy this sport. And I'm not talking about an incident on a racetrack. I'm talking about a thought process. You see, I see a lot of dumbasses out there saying that Bubba Wallace brought racism to the sport. He didn't bring racism to NASCAR or to racing. He just shined a light on it, buddy. But in doing so, he got pampered, while another guy was beaten in the ground. And these actions and treatments unfolded in this entire Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace incident at Las Vegas. The racing incident, what really is it? It's pretty damn simple. You go into turn 3 and 4. One guy's Kyle Larson, one guy's Bubba Wallace. If you're Kyle Larson, you can drive the damn wheels off of any race car that you ever stepped into and kick just about everyone's ass. You self-believe that you're one of the best damn racers in the world, and most of the world is acknowledging your belief. Now, you also go into that turning 3 and 4 corner as Bubba Wallace. A driver who really isn't on a Kyle Larson level, isn't on a Kevin Harvick level, who is a good race car driver who don't get enough credit. But a good race car driver on the NASCAR Cup Series level in any race car ain't going to do nothing amazing when you got guys like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson on the racetrack. So for Bubba Wallace to perform amazingly, he has to have everything go right. He has to have the car go good, be in the right spot on the racetrack, and also drive to his full potential to even compete against these guys. And a lot of the people out there, in a racist way, would say he's only there because he's black, which I do not think that's the case. There's so many people in NASCAR that shouldn't even be there, and they're only there because of their privilege. And you ain't got to be just white to have privilege anymore. But you got to have a lot of money. But Bubba Wallace is going through that corner knowing that he's not on Kyle Larson's level, knowing that he has to have everything go perfect, knowing that he has to have everything go right, knowing that he's had all this pampering and pushing and support, and knowing that he's in Michael Jordan's car, and knowing all of these things, knowing that he has just led laps. This is my opportunity to be validated as an actual racing talent. And at that point in the race, he was falling back. He was losing. He had already won a stage, I believe. He had already felt like he could win the entire race. And here comes Kyle Larson. Bubba's falling back. Larson's coming in there. Larson's the greatest of all time. In his mind, he's throwing his ass off in there. In Bubba's mind, to be up front, he don't lift. Because he ain't got enough natural driving ability to know that you can lift. The only way he can compete at the front is by not lifting. He don't have enough experience up front to know that you can lift. And he's been pampered so damn much that he feels like he don't have to lift, and if anything goes wrong for him, the world is supporting him. Kyle Larson makes a little mistake with the confidence of him being the best racer. He goes up the track a little bit. Bubba sees the window closing, but does not have to lift, because that's the only way he knows how to run up front, apparently. He does get shoved over the cushion, pushed up into the gray, which for those who don't understand that, you basically lose your front end when you get to that point. He goes up into the wall without contact, because you don't have to have contact for that to happen, and Kyle Larson knows that, and Bubba Wallace knows that. And then what happens is frustration, arrogance, jealousy, envy. The truth comes out. One side's pampered. One side has been beaten in the ground. Bubba knows who just wrecked him. Bubba knows who just hit him. He knows what that guy represents to the community that supports him. And he hooks him over being frustrated. He's seen people do it throughout. He saw Noah Gragson do it earlier in the year on the road course. Who gives a damn? Not today, Whitey. Oh, hell no. Frustration, angry. You get to find out who somebody really is in those moments. And since Bubba Wallace has been pampered, like he has been, he feels like he can do anything and get away with it. And he hooks him, shoves him into the wall. Kyle obviously feels like he's done something wrong. He gets out of the race car. He's standing there. He's probably frustrated that even though there was some contact and there was some racing incidents, that Bubba probably could have kept going after brushing the wall. I believe it was Martin Truex Jr. who brushed the wall earlier in the race, and he was performing okay. But Bubba doesn't see it like Martin Truex Jr. because Martin Truex Jr. is used to running up front. He knows that you can lift. He has enough confidence in his driving ability to make up for the race car. The race car don't have to make up for him. So when Bubba Wallace got a little scrape on his vehicle, he knows that he can't make up for that. He also knows that that can really damage the car. There are some rational thoughts to when he brushes that wall that his day may be done. We saw Kyle Larson basically lose the championship at the Roval, according to some people, because he brushed the wall coming off a corner, and that damaged his race car to the point he couldn't contend anymore after running well in earlier stages. So there's logic to it, but then there's also emotion to it, and we're talking about the emotional situation. So now pampered Bubba Wallace, supported Bubba Wallace. I'm bigger than the sport, Bubba Wallace, because the sport has told him that he is and treated him as according. Has walked across the track out of his race car after we don't do that anymore because a kid and a hotshot driver got into it up in New York at one time. Proceeds to Kyle Larson and then goes to push Kyle Larson up onto the car. Now, when this fight occurs and pushes off like that, Kyle Larson bounces up and looks like he may do something, but no. This is the difference. This is when the kid who has been beaten don't push back. Because Kyle Larson has already been beaten to death. Exiled from the sport. Exiled socially, experienced the pain, the anguish, everyone turning their back on him. If I do anything to the black man in this scenario, I am screwed. I know who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with Bubba Wallace, the pampered one. So he doesn't attack. But Bubba Wallace, who has been pampered by the entire sport socially, continues to push and bully because he knows he can do it and he knows he can, in the moment, get away with it. This is the difference between the privileged and the beaten. Socially. Not throughout history, not 60 years ago, but in 2022. Today, in the last lifespan of our time. And I believe this is why people took the actions that they did. I believe this is why Bubba Wallace hooked Kyle Larson. I believe this is why Kyle Larson didn't fight back. I believe this is why Bubba continuously pushed and then pushed officials, waving his hands off. And continued with the arrogance to call everyone who has a brain a dumbass when he told everyone that the steering broke. That's the attitude you have when you're privileged and pampered and supported socially. The other attitude that Kyle Larson had, made a mistake thinking he's the greatest driver of all time. The world's supporting that. Little incident on the track getting hooked by Bubba Wallace. He knows who Bubba Wallace is and what he represents. And he also knows what Bubba Wallace's supporters and what NASCAR supporters think of him. And he's been beaten in the ground. And he knows if he fights back, if he does anything wrong, he's going to get that whooping. Bubba Wallace ain't never got that whooping. It's the opposite for him socially. So that's really what I think happened here. That's honestly how I see it. We have actions and reactions, and there are explanations for why those two things occurred. But with everything considered here, if NASCAR wants to right the ship on this one and take a little responsibility for beating Kyle Larson a little too hard and pampering Bubba Wallace a little too much to where you can't have a driver with the mentality that he does to do everything that he just did, you pretty much have to suspend Bubba Wallace for a race. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I have to say. That's the realism of the situation. Be sure to like the video, share it, comment below, and subscribe. And as always, hey, go get you a little hat. Look at this purple and gold, boy. Purple and gold. I feel like I'm on Space Jam. I'm old Daffy Duck. But anyways, we'll see you next time. You dumb mother cluckers.
This is how we ride. This is how